Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper, and today we have a full house. I think we've got a full house because we're all chomping at the bit to have our say on events that have unfolded in the last week or so. A loss at Ipswich, Gary O'Neill finally getting the sack, and a new manager looks to be imminent. We'll start with the main man himself, Dave Azzopardi. Dave, how's things? Have you calmed down since Saturday? I saw your match reaction. Yeah. I saw Dazzle's match reaction.
Yeah, Dazzle's was worse than mine. Yeah, well, not worse. That's a bit harsh on me, but Dazzle's was a bit more emotional, let's say, than mine. But
he's right though. I know he was very emotional. I know he said it to do with his mother as well. But everything he said was just like Dazzle is just spitting facts right about now.
I got upset at the end because I just thought, like, I think everybody knew. We'll talk about the match obviously when that corner, got given as a corner. I think we all knew what was going to happen, but. Yeah, I think my West Ham one was a little bit more emotional. I think I said it on the podcast last week. That was fueled by a few neck oils. Whereas this one, I was a little bit calmer because I think I just appreciated the fact that we were shit, and I think I sort of accepted the fact that we were in a little bit of trouble. So I was surprised when we heard the news Sunday, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to talk about it and get everyone's views.
Jord, you haven't stopped smiling, have you?
Well, I'm glad
a frown might be nice. There's a frown about in my life.
No, I'm happy he's gone. I think we all wanted him gone. Probably myself more so than others, maybe, or voiced it more strongly than others earlier on. But Ryan's been on the wall, and again, look, there's a lot more deeper rooted issues at Wolverhampton Wanderers right now, other than the manager. We know that. We're bored of talking about it, but. He had to go, and I think actually we'll get into in a bit more detail shortly. But his post-match comments, he just sounded like someone who wanted to get the sack. I think he just he was going to leave like a shit on Jeff Shee's car bonnet or something by Monday morning at Compton. He was just basically just wanting to get rid of him. He wanted to get rid of himself.
He'd struggle with that because he's not been at Compton, I don't think.
Well, maybe he could have shat on one of his esports cars instead in the game.
Rocket League. Yeah, so we'll obviously get into all the goings on that's happened. Finally, concept scouting, Joe Parker becoming quite the regular on the podcast.
I'm not more regular than you, mate.
You are, mate. Oh, I'll get the biggest appearance for you, that's why. Can't afford it. I saw Finn was on last week as well. It was nice to hear his dulcet tones. See him again next year. How are you, Joe?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm just waiting. Feel like we're kind of in no man's land at the minute until we wait and see what happens. But that's not quite over Saturday, and then obviously seeing Dave's emotional reaction after it pulled at the heartstrings. Like watching Pride of Britain.
Dazzling Dave, not me.
I know you.
Oh, he's on about me. Okay.
Yeah, Dazzling's was very, very emotional. But everything you were saying is true, and I know I've seen it's been clipped up on TikTok a few times over the weekend. Fans of other clubs saying, "Oh, I'm a Reading fan. We've been doing it." I get it, but it's all relative. So just because Reading is shit doesn't mean we can't feel a certain way. But yeah, it was obviously sad to see him getting so emotional over it. But yeah. Do we want to start with the Ipswich performance, or would you rather talk about let's go chronological order. Let's start with the Ipswich performance. And I didn't go to the game again. I probably won't go again this season if I'm being totally honest. Even though I've got a season ticket, I can't go to waste my time with it. But it looks awful. It like the game. If I'm watching it from the TV, we were dog shit. You could hear the Jeff Shee, you're a wanker chants. You could hear chants about Fosun. Jackie Oatley never mentioned anything on that on comms. You could clearly hear it, which I thought was strange. But it wasn't resonating around the stadium, almost from a position of apathy, Dave. Was that Wolves fans have had the fight beat out of them, I think.
Yeah, the atmosphere was pretty. I don't think it was as bad as I thought it would be. Sort of going into the game, I thought this could be nasty, especially if we don't start off too brilliantly. There were those chants that you mentioned, but I don't think they didn't get going as much or as loud as I thought they would. Like you said, you heard it on the TV, but even from the South Bank, I thought it only felt like maybe about 50% of the fans were joining in with that. Whether that's because fans don't agree with it, or whether that's because it's not really productive, especially when we're in the middle of a game and sort of trying to fight to get back in it. I don't know, but I think, like you said, fans are tired and fed up, and I think hopefully this change that we'll talk about throughout the podcast is going to give the players and us as fans a bit of a kick up the backside, and hopefully get a bit more positivity back in the club, because we've certainly since August, and especially at Molineux, prices have gone up, which piss people off in one way, but results and performances haven't followed in that same way. So something needed to change, and hopefully we start to see that from Sunday.
I think another reason why the chants weren't ringing around Molineux, and I do think there are still some small pockets of Wolves fans who don't think Fosun are in the wrong, and thank them for all the memories that they provided us over the last 5 or 6 years, which of course we're all grateful for. But the way they've run the club in the last probably 3 seasons has been nothing short of embarrassing. It's probably because the stadium's now starting to fill up with, and I don't know if you saw it on TikTok over the weekend, they interviewed a fan outside the ground, head to toe in Sudu gear, Wolves gear, and he asked him if you were to support another Premier League team or another team, who would it be? And he went, I actually support Wolves and Manchester United.
Yeah. It was worse because he said if you couldn't support Wolves and you had to support another club in the Midlands, who would you support? And he goes, I'm actually a Manchester fan. So
yeah, I just thought, what is the point anymore? And I get that you've got to try and I don't mind those fans coming if we're actually going to spend the money that they're actually spending with us. But at the minute, it's going straight into Jeff's back pocket. Joe,
I rated the drip though. Yeah,
it did look like Dave has a party head to toe. Dave's a sucker for Wolves. Yeah. I've not brought anything for a while. I won't. I'm hoping not to spend another penny with that club bod.
I've not bought any Sudu gear, but I'm half expecting to see some as Christmas presents.
Yeah.
So I'll have to wear it.
Because I'm probably not going to be going to many more games this season, especially home games. So I won't be spending then. I never buy any merchandise. I 100% will not be renewing my season ticket next year. So I think that's me done until there's a change.
Vitor gets us Europe though.
Yeah, we can have a conversation.
Cardiff away, mate. Cardiff away.
Joe, you went, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the atmosphere, like Dave says, it didn't really get going. Really, the chants against Fosun were kind of half-arsed. A good half of the South Bank were going for it. Another half were kind of just sat there watching. But I think the atmosphere was important on Saturday because it was evident that there was a kind of spell of 5 minutes on the hour, I think, from memory, where a couple of players done something daft. Lamine has shanked one over the bar.
That was so frustrating.
And then Bellegarde's just had a complete fucking brain fart and lost the ball. And it kind of went a little bit toxic for like a 30-second spell. And there was players like, particularly Strand Larson and Cunha, kind of gesturing to the South Bank, like, kind of fucking come on, which it irritates the fucking life out of me. Because there's people there, me and Aid had this conversation on Saturday. There's people who are on the bones of their arse who are probably going to watch the game as a bit of a release from the stresses that they actually have. And you've got blokes who are on fucking 80 grand a week telling them to start shouting. Whereas the apathy is set in by them. People didn't give a fuck whether we lost 4-0 at that point. So I don't think anybody cared.
That was bollocks by Cunha as well, because there was a woman by me. He did that right by me down in the South Bank, and the atmosphere was all right because that was after he'd scored as well.
Yeah.
And I thought, bar his goal, he's not broke a sweat the whole game.
And he pulled out this weird like glare to the South Bank when he scored, as if like, there's one for you. Hold on, mate. We're on fucking 9 points from 15, 16 games. You're the only one, in fairness, across the season who's looked like doing anything. You and Strand Larson.
It was like well below his standards Saturday.
Yeah, he was wank. First half, let's be fair, he was shite. And to be fair, I know you guys touched on it last week. He's been shite since probably the Southampton game, I'd say. He's been in and around. Monday night against West Ham, he was terrible.
Fulham was after Southampton.
Was it? Thought it was before. He can have that one. But like the Everton game, the West Ham game, it was Saturday. He's been dreadful, and I think the problem is this kind of like, you can see it with Aït-Nouri at the end. You saw it with Lamina last week. It was almost like this performative way that they want to get across that they care, whereas last 10 minutes they're all fucking knackered. Aït-Nouri looked shagged. Strand Larson was sweating his bollocks off like if you're that bothered, and you'll have to do it now under the new manager because he ain't going to let it slide like O'Neill probably has. They're going to have to show that in during the game because fed up of seeing people just like giving it the big one to make it look like they're arsed. When if you're not arsed, you won't be in the team. It's as simple as that. I'd rather have the Alfie Ponds playing, and us we might as well we're getting dicked anyway every week, so we might as well at least breed some of the young kids through now. But it's just honestly, I've lost the fucking will to live with it. If I hadn't sacked him yesterday, I probably would have just gave up for the season, if I'm honest.
Guys, if you're not in my team, you're not trained properly.
Exactly that.
That's who we need.
Yeah.
Have you? Oh god.
Matt Hobbs' no dickheads policies bearing fruit, isn't it? He couldn't sign any more if he tried.
Yeah, well, I think Joe sort of hit the nail on the head there. It's I feel like they're trying to show the care in the most petulant ways possible. Like they're acting like fucking spoilt brats, sulking because they've lost a game of football. And I hate it. It's all this, it's not my fault. It's everyone else's fault. Oh, I'm going to scrap so-and-so. Oh, it's embarrassing. The players, again, the players are just as culpable as Gary O'Neill has been, as Fosen have been with this. Like the players on the pitch or in that squad are more than good enough to have more than 9 points this season. I mean, 19th position. It doesn't matter who the manager is. I think we could take the team over, and I'd back myself to get more than 9 points with that crop of players. I know we'll get onto it in more detail, but I mean, Aitnery and Cunha are arguably our two most important players, or two of our better players for sure. And for just pure petulance, they're going to get banned when we need them most against some of this running of games and stuff. And yeah, I mean, for me, like Aitnery, he hasn't looked like he wants to be there all season. Honestly, I don't think he's been anywhere near the level he got to over the last couple of seasons. Cunha, as soon as I guess people started noticing the goals he's scoring, the contributions he's done. The last 3 games, he's acted like he thinks he's fucking Neymar or Mbappe or whatever. It's like we can't carry anyone like that in the team. Like, and again, Gary O'Neill did say his defensive off the ball work is questionable. I think it's the last 3 games is worse than it was before Gary O'Neill called him out.
I think it's though, Jord. He proved in that kind of 10-15 minute spell because he ran the show for 10-15 minutes when we were on top. He was everywhere, which kind of begs the question: where are you for the rest of the game? Why is it needing that kind of like, getting back into the game? It shouldn't be down to the fans to get them all on the front foot again. They should be doing it themselves.
The arrogance in this team, and not just Cunha, but across the lot of them, the arrogance they've got to be sort of like, say, gesturing to the South Bank to make more noise for them, basically downing tools in games and feeling sorry for themselves. It's shocking. They're nowhere near as good as I think they are, the lot of them. And the reason why we are where we are, they're a big problem and they're a big part of that. And they're going to get themselves out of jail a little bit with Gary O'Neill going now because there's going to be a new manager. We'll likely have a bounce and they'll likely start performing again. It was what happened under Lopetegui as well. We've got this bounce. And we'll end up levelling off probably where we should be finishing in this league, in my opinion, which is like probably like in and around 14th, 15th place. To be honest with you, I think they'll just they're going to get themselves off the hook. But they've thrown a manager under the bus, and again, I think everyone knows my thoughts on Gary O'Neill. I think they've thrown him under the bus over the last couple of games, and then he threw himself under the bus with his comments the last couple of games anyway.
But and Johnny Phillips raised a good point in his column. He keeps going on about how it's an emotional squad. Well, that's your job to fucking manage them.
Regulate it, yeah.
Like my missus is quite emotional, but I know what pisses her off and I know what doesn't, and I think I get the best out of her. But
you're fairly emotional as well, to be fair.
I'm more emotional than her. She's the one who has to house full of prima donnas.
It's his job to manage it.
That's his job. That's his job. It is. That's his job to control that group of players. But also, if you're looking at it from a recruitment point of view, and we can come on to Matt Hobbs a bit later because there seems to be a few question marks from journalists questioning his future. Like, why have we signed these players with that kind of personality? Because when we signed Cunha, I remember when he was at Hertha, I believe. I don't know if it was on our channel or another channel, but there was some German football expert who said when he's in full flow, the fans love him. He'll do anything for the fans. When he starts to not get his own way, he's a pain in the arse. Because I think he wanted to move, and it like tensions between him and the fans were terrible. So, but these are the sort of things that you know. So why do you sign a lot of Lamina? Even though this season has been poor, but before that for us he's been great. But those moments were there for other clubs, Southampton, Fulham, where he's allegedly a bit of an arsehole. But I personally thought he'd turn that all around. But yeah, it's you kind of getting what you asked for, really, in terms of the signings. But in terms of the game itself, I thought we played all right for 10 or 15 minutes. But I mean, Ipswich aren't no great shakes, and that's not any kind of trying to take the piss out of them or whatnot. They are what they are. They're down there with us. I didn't watch that game thinking, oh, bloody hell, these are a really well-coached team. But they were effective. But Liam Delap was just running through us. But O'Neill's comments about Semedo, well, he's a fullback. He's not going to be out-muscling Liam Delap. Liam Delap's a big lad. So I don't get why he made those comments about Semedo. Again, he's just signing his own
we had
death warrant,
the
really.
Ipswich fan on the preview literally said that's what Liam Delap had done all season as well. In terms of that physicality and, he could really drive his team forward, and that's why he's got a few goals so far this season. But that whole Semedo at right centre-back thing again just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. You play Doc or Semedo, you don't play both of them. Or if you want to play a back three, you take one of the two. Yeah, Dawson was shit a couple of weeks ago, but you put him back in the team if you want to play three centre-backs. Especially like a team like Ipswich, they've got big fellas. You've been shit at corners, so you need that little bit more physicality to make sure we don't concede stupid goals. I don't know, just a disaster. Semedo's a great defender, and he could, in terms of wingers and so on. But when he comes up against someone, and I think if he starts off quite badly, when he comes up against someone and he meets his match, it could be a long afternoon for Nelson. And
I think as well, though, where Semedo is somehow isolated against the lap on his own on the wrong side of the pitch. Yes, Semedo, as far as I'm concerned, has to do better with it in some way, and it's just shepherd him out. But at the same time, the system in some way or another, because I think it was on a counter attack, wasn't it, where Delap's come clear. Yeah. If we're allowing Semedo to be isolated by Liam Delap, then that's gonna happen. That's part of the problem. You're leaving the wrong players isolated by the wrong players, and then obviously what comes after it is that I found it funny that he's chose to raise Semedo as the issue there, which I think is fair. But then if you're gonna single him out, you've got to single all the other players involved in that move out, because you've got 3 or 4 defenders back. Sam Johnston's fucking away with the fairies somewhere. I don't know what the fuck's what he's doing. So why choose to isolate Semedo? Not that it matters now, because the blokes down the road probably bet 9 holes in this morning. But that's the problem. The need to throw players under the bus, which he started to do a little bit more in the last few weeks, which I think Jord's right. I think it's more self-sabotage than anything else. He knew he wasn't going to stay. He wants his payout. He wants to go and sun himself up for the winter. But that goal was such a bad goal to concede. It was awful.
I would expect Liam Delap to, in terms of like shoulder to shoulder, it's like me going shoulder to shoulder with Dave. Like, you would expect me to probably come out on top.
Dave would wait you out,
mate.
But he's like twice the size of him. So the comments I thought were pretty strange. That goal in its entirety, if you could get one clip of a goal this season, say, how have you played? I would just show someone that.
Yeah.
It was like crap 90s football. It was. I was pissing myself watching it, and I think everyone in the crowd probably was as well.
But it was made up of loads of little individual moments just beforehand where Sam Johnson played the ball to Doc on the wing in loads of space, and he somehow took a touch, bringing it back towards the keeper, and he's giving it away to Ipswich's winger. And it's like you say, you've got your best right wing back on the pitch. He's playing centre back. You've got a second right wing back playing right wing back. You've apparently got your best left back playing centre back. And I'm sure the new manager will fix this. When he comes in, you've got to have a solid team at the back. And if one of them has a mare, you just keep him in the team. That's what Nuno did. Willy Bolly had loads of games where he was fucking crap, but he stayed in the team and he improved, especially in that championship season. The first half of that season, Willy Bolly wasn't great. So I just think that you've got to have a bit of stability back there, whereas none of them look like they know what they're doing or what they should be doing. So you can kind of understand it, can't you?
There were loads of moments throughout that game though. The throw-in, Doc on the right side. Fucking hell! But it was more than once. You had it, But Semedo was there free as soon as he picked up the ball, just knock it back, and he took however long, and to get penalised is just laughable, absolutely laughable.
But then that moment as well, and we touched on it earlier with the Lamina. Those couple of moments where Lamina's took a shot from this, and it was never ever going. But it's just so frustrating, like, well, especially when you're losing. But to do something stupid like that and like the throw, it's just it strikes me of a team who have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
No,
and I know what we say in the obvious, but it just looks like a team who have had every single bit of life and confidence zapped out of them, and that's not just Gary O'Neill's fault; that's their fault as well. Yeah, it's just so frustrating to watch. I personally think we're good as done. I think we're finished. I think we go down.
I said the same after Saturday, but I think now that was me sort of resigned to the fact that we were keeping Gary O'Neill for the foreseeable future. I think this Sunday is massive. You get 3 points there. You can nick a result maybe over the next few games. Mate, I'm with you. Laugh, but, you can. The second half of the season now, you've got, yes, we have 12 fixtures, but then you're going to have that run of fixtures that Gary O'Neill should have done a hell of a lot better with. So, this manager, who we'll talk, I'm sure, more about, looks like he takes no shit. It could be an absolute disaster, and I'm probably leaning towards that. But at the same time, it could be exactly what this squad needs at the moment, to give him a kick up the backside and hope you get some points.
You never know. You win the fifth round, you're in the quarterfinals, you win that, you're in the semi-finals before you know it.
Well, I think they've got to back. They'll have to back in that. So I think, and it'd be so typical Wolves that we wait in and twiddling our thumbs on the 31st of Jan to bring in some defenders. But a centre back has got to be through the door within the first few days.
They need two, I think.
Yeah, at least.
Well, you need at least one in early doors.
But go on, Jord. Sorry, mate.
No, I was going to say, sorry, my internet's been playing a bit. I'm back now and I can hear you loud and clear. My thing is that now we've got the new gaffer coming in. It needs to be a drastic change. And reading what you've read sort of from the articles and the columns over the last 24 hours or so about Fosun saying there's going to be money available and they realise they've got it wrong and we need to do all this stuff. We're just back in the Lopetegui situation where I reckon we'll end up spending over 100 million quid in January. And then it's going to get to August and it's going, we had to sell Aitnery, we had to sell Cunha, we had to balance the books and stuff, and you're just in this vicious cycle again. We've got to almost have a massive circuit break of what we're doing, and if by some miracle we manage to stay up this season, then Fosun need to double down and go again. I hope now they've realised you can't just have a football club and just half-arse it in the Premier League and just stand still and be self-sufficient, because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, unfortunately. We've tried it don't work. And
but they just bank on the three coming up being shit and finishing 17th. That's what they're happy with. That's what they budget for.
No, I don't disagree. But actually, you stand still in this league, you get swallowed up at some point, and we're very close to getting swallowed up. And I thought that I learned about this a couple of years ago when we were bottom at Christmas. We've said it many times. The only reason we stayed up that season was because the World Cup saved us. Because it was almost like a second season on the back end of too many seasons within a season. I just think and I hope that the only way we stay up is if the players aren't mentally damaged and fatigued by this calendar year where the confidence is shot. Like we go into, we've barely won a game all calendar year. It's really poor. And going back into the one thing I've got, and I know the video's been circling around a little bit on social media. Watching us this pre-season, that goal against Leipzig, but even watching the games in pre-season, we were a joy to watch. And then we get into the Premier League, we get into the real stuff, and all of a sudden it just feels like this big dark cloud goes over Molineux, and you're like, shit, we're scared to play. We're going to lose. We don't want to lose the ball. I don't get how you can be so different from what we saw in pre-season. It's mental.
I do also think as well the recruitment, especially this window, losing I don't think any of us had a problem with losing Kilman and Neto, especially for the fees. I thought in terms of what we got for them was good value. But then you spend pretty much all that money on Strand Larson, who I think is a good player and has done well. So he's the anomaly. Andre, who for the first 2 or 3 games you thought, wow, he looks a really good player. He's been dog shit. Rodrigo Gomez, miles off it. Carlos Forbes, miles off it. £10 million on Sam Johnson to replace a goalkeeper with a goalkeeper who's like for like, miles off it. That hasn't helped us. Why could you not go and get a centre half?
I think part of that excuse there, Matt, with Strand Larson, we didn't even spend any money on him. He's on loan until
he won't be here next season if we go down. There'll be something in the.
But they haven't even got that. Well, we had to strengthen. We needed a number 9 and we needed a centre back, so we went with a number 9. They haven't spent money on either. They haven't spent any money on either technically until the summer, where I assume there's some form of obligation unless we get relegated. In which case, we won't pay a penny, will we?
Yeah, or it'll be 3 or 4 million loan fee, probably something like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they're paying. They're paying now, but
I still think the recruitment in the summer was okay. If you think about the fact that if you ignore the fact that we didn't get a centre back, which obviously it's easy for us all to sit here now. If Mosquera carried on, and Mosquera started the season fairly well, that Arsenal game he was really good actually. If we'd have kept him, which is a lot of ifs, I think I don't think we'd be much better off, but I think we would be better off. But the fact that we didn't replace him, if we had integrated the likes of Rodrigo Gomez and Carlos Forbes into the team, I think O'Neill's dropped the ball with Andre big style, because O'Neill seems to have this pattern where he has to have a droppable player at any given time. In which case, previously it was Bellegarde, then Bellegarde was undroppable for a period, and then obviously he couldn't drop Lamina or Jorge Gomez, so he crowbarred both of them into the team. When I think we all knew that Lamina was probably the one to get dropped. Andre got dropped out of the team. He's been in and out ever since. He's played the Man City game. He hooked him at half time, I think, because he wasn't following orders. He did the same on Saturday. I am slightly optimistic that our recruitment in the summer will look better with a better manager handling them in the right way. Because I still think we've chronically underused Rodrigo Gomez and Carlos Forbes. Carlos Forbes particularly. But Rodrigo Gomez has come in and been asked to do things that, he's playing a high intensity role where he's playing wing back. Where I think when he played a couple of weeks ago, you can't just drop into that role. You've got to be playing regularly to be doing that. Look at Doc; he's just as shit. So I do think if we get the right guy in charge, the squad starts to look a bit better because they're managing the right way. But so far, it's been dire.
I think without going too much into obviously Vitor Ferreira, who looks like he's going to be the manager. There's a lot of unique opinions on him, but one of the things that has been said about him, especially during his time in Turkey, was in terms of his looking at players in his squad and getting them into the right roles, or even different roles that you've not seen them in before. I think who's the lad at Brighton now? Is it
Kadioglu, yeah.
He was a number 10 apparently when Vitor Pereira took over, and he was the one that switched him to a fullback, which is where he's got his best, and there was a couple of players in there. So I mean, Rodrigo Gomez, yes, he played wing back for Estoril last season. Maybe there's a slot at left or right wing back, although we've got players there. Maybe Pereira will, spot that with Rodrigo Gomez, and all of a sudden we'll see like a brand new player. Like you said, Joe, Carlos Forbes as well. Maybe technically not the best, but certainly in terms of his pace, could have been used a hell of a lot better. Even against Bournemouth, came on the pitch and it was the complete wrong role for him. So there's certain things where I agree with you. I don't think the transfer window was that bad. Yes, the centre back in hindsight was the big missing piece of the jigsaw, but I think in terms of players, they've just been used completely wrong.
But these are the sort of players that you don't bring in to replace the player in the same window. These are the sort of players you sign a year before and bed them into the team, like we did with Neto and then sell Jota. You don't just bring them in because they are miles off it.
I think part of the problem with that is we did that with Pedro Lima, and then you have half the fan base clamouring for him to be starting games, so they can't really
clamour all they want. They're there to develop. Rodrigo Gomez and Carlos Forbes are not Premier League players at the minute. That's not to say they won't be, but
based on what though? Because they've not been given a fucking kick.
From what I've seen,
Yeah,
I don't think
Rodrigo
they're good
Gomez played well against Fulham. Second half, he was good, and that was the first time he had a long stretch of an actual game. He was unbelievable in pre-season. Forbes a little bit more understandable. Again, I think he's shown certain signs. I think in the cup he played all right, but he's just, I don't know. I think he's stuck. Gary O'Neill's stuck to the same players too often. There was no way Bellegarde should have started on Saturday, and he was dog again. He was awful.
Who'd you play instead?
I think you change the system. I think in terms of I think the system was completely wrong. I would have played Aït-Nouri further up, had a flat back four, or you play even Totti as a left wing back and bring in another centre back. But or even start Forbes. I would have started Sarabia, but it looks like he's injured. I think he's on his way out. Anyway,
I think so as well. I think that's more what it is. I thought Gedge was all right again when he come on.
He changed the game, Gedge, and then again we get the goal, and then he's playing at right back.
Yeah. But and you look at some of the teams that have beat us this season. If you look at Ipswich on Saturday, their team isn't as exactly awash with Premier League players, is it? But they're solid, and they look better because they know the system. That's all it is.
Should we talk about the unsavoury scenes at full time? Aït-Nouri acting like a big tit again, and the Cunha incident. Now he's going to get a ban. It's going to be what 5 or 6 games? You reckon? I'd say so.
And you know what? I'd say Matt as well. He deserves every game he gets, mate.
100%.
Yeah, he can't.
It's a shit house move.
Elbows, yeah, it's
an elbow guy
shit house.
Yeah, dropping an elbow on someone who ain't even looking at you.
It's all well and good having a scuffle, but they're doing that and then grabbing the bloke. So it's just daft.
No, it's a disgrace, and we all like to lyrical about Cunha as a footballer, and he's been our best player this year. But that petulance, I will not stand. I won't stand for anything shit like that. I think it's embarrassing, and I think actually he's going to hurt the team more with his actions for him just being a stupid tit.
As much as he's been our best player this season, he has been amazing. He's probably sent us down now without him for 6 games. If he's charged, then they will appeal it so he can play Sunday because it's deemed as a winnable fixture. But I mean, Kudus got 5 games for his incident at Tottenham Hotspur. I think it's way worse than that. I think
it's way worse. Yeah,
I think because it's out of the context of the game, isn't it? It's after the whistle, which. There's all sorts of things I could use. He's going to be looking at 5 or 6 games.
Unless there's mitigating factors to, I don't know, he might have called him something. Or,
Shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless there's mitigating factors. But why has he grabbed his glasses off his face?
It's so neat. It's
hilarious.
There's just no need for it whatsoever. And, even with Aït-Nouri, when Dawson's, manhandling him to get him off the pitch, if you can't control your emotions like that, and you can argue that's the job of O'Neill, of Sean Derry, the coaching staff, of Lamina, of Semedo. Because again, Semedo was captain on Saturday, first game, and he's got 2 of his, one of his most experienced players decking one of the Ipswich coaching staff, and you've got your substitute centre back having to carry your left back off because he's going to deck someone else. What the fuck's going on?
I don't understand how you could be that angry as well. The one with Aït-Nouri, Dawson, holding him, it's just.
I was paid to be there, and I weren't that angry.
Yeah, I was there.
It's all front. It's all front. We're so annoyed at this. Look how much it hurts us. They're fucking off for a Christmas party at the weekend.
People upload a picture of their smashed up PlayStation controller because they've lost a game of FIFA. I was like,
yeah, that's all it is.
Why are you that angry?
That's all it is. It's crap. And Aït-Nouri, I mean, if he can get picked up and carried by Craig Dawson, it reminded me of Scrappy-Doo.
Yeah.
And Screw. Just picked him up. No, not today, Scrappy. Yeah, here we go. Just he couldn't knock out a fucking wank.
His arms in the air, Yeah.
It's like Dave in Pot World.
Hey.
It's just what are you doing? It's petulance at its finest, and it's just
pathetic.
It's pathetic, and I'd be pissing myself if it was anyone other than Wolverhampton Wanderers. But unfortunately, it isn't.
That's the worst thing. The fact I go on social media and I see West Brom fans pipe up is one thing. Seeing Walsall fans more than a few Walsall fans pipe up, I think that shows how embarrassing.
All 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think there was an element of Ipswich players were getting under the skin, probably thinking we can get a couple of bans here.
You've got to be better.
Yeah, but you've got to rise above it.
Ain't already lost his head in the first half. Again, was it?
He pushed him in the face. It wasn't a
Connor
red, but
Chapman, is it? Or Wes
No,
Burns?
yeah, but
It
he
was-
lost
it
his head. He
it was
didn't even
Wes
need to
Burns,
square
yeah.
up to him.
yeah.
He didn't even need to square up to him. And then from that moment, I think he got the booking, didn't he? Or shortly after
Yeah.
he got booked. And I thought he's getting sent off. I didn't think he'd be after the game. I thought he'd be during the match. But he looked shagged during the game as well, though. For me, I would have. I would have
Shagged him.
bought yeah, probably.
Yeah, so he was mixed up.
I would have brought Lima. I would have brought Lima on earlier. You know, they're talking about him being the next generation of fullback or wing back at the club. I would have brought Lima on, but either put Lima at left back or shove Doc over to left back and put Lima at right back because he had 2 subs left. Just nothing made, and then I think we could have had the momentum and gone and got the second goal after we equalised as well.
That incident with Cunha, though, you can see Doc trying to restrain him. You see Doc look at the Ipswich staff, look back at Cunha, look back at the Ipswich staff, and look at the glasses in his hand. And he's like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah,
It's just how can you not control? Look, we're all hurting. Us more than them, obviously, because half of them are gone on the Christmas party this weekend. You would assume because we're at Birmingham Airport in a big group of them. So you can't be hurting that bad. You can't mean that much. But then you've got Tommy Doyle saying the players aren't trying hard enough.
Yeah, but
He can't be hurting that bad.
He's looking at it on the outside, looking in because he's probably thinking, like, these fuckers are losing every week and I can't get a gig. Every time I come on, I make an impact and make a decision. And I think there was a clamour a few weeks ago for Tommy Doyle should be starting regularly. I think someone asked me that on Twitter, and at the time, I said I just don't think he should be consistently starting over Lamina, Gomez, or Andre. I just don't think he's at the level. But actually, right now, they're not at any sort of level they should be performing to either. So I think Tommy Doyle more than warrants a start against Leicester. And actually, he's someone that gives a shit. And for me, I think I said it on last week's pod. If we go down in the Championship, that's the sort of player we'd build a team around. I think because he gets it, and he's a very tidy footballer. And the new gaffer's going to want people he can trust. Now, I think Tommy Doyle is someone you can trust. I think he's got a level head, and I don't think he'd get into any of this petulant shit. I think he'd just,
I thought he was crap on Saturday, George, when he came on.
I thought he was shit.
I thought
they all were, though.
He started off the second half well, but then there were 2 opportunities where he shot on goal rather than squaring it to Guedes to his right. And I think that and then Gedge after that just stayed back the whole time. He started progressive passing.
It was nice and tidy. It was tidy as you expect, but
It's poor choices
in those big moments. Yeah, just need more from them all. To be fair, it's not just him. They've got to be doing more when you've got in those positions. And Gedge, to be fair to him, 4 or 5 times he got in great positions and he just wasn't getting the ball. And obviously, the one time he did have it, he did well with it. So it does beg the question whether how key he's going to be moving forward as well.
Seems to be getting a bit more game time though, Gedge. And I know. Recently you said to Davey's shit. Don't get what the clamour is, but he's been the only one recently. It looks like.
Yeah, I did mention that on my review. To be fair, and I was like, because obviously people listening to the podcast might not watch them. I did sort of say to myself, I said, I was pleasantly surprised with his cameo. I thought on Saturday he came on, and for someone who doesn't want to apparently play for this club or don't want to be in this country, he was the only one that sort of tried. I think on Saturday he made a real difference when he came on. To be honest, but good work rate from him.
He looked gutted as well. He did genuinely look gutted at the end, which I think he's had thrown at him quite a few times, hasn't he? He's not asked.
Should we talk about O'Neill's post-match press conference? The media were waiting absolutely ages, apparently. I know Jude never put anything out. He said he had to get to London. I spoke to him yesterday. He said, but they were waiting ages for him to come out. I thought we would have heard something on the evening. But firstly, what did you make of his comments? For me, it was, I want to say something here that's going to get me in a sack, but not through gross misconduct. I want to sail close to it, but I need to say stuff that makes my position untenable, which he has done for the last month. But
yeah, I would have been intrigued to be a fly on the wall in that dressing room and see exactly what was said. Because if he was that upset,
an atom on the wall.
yeah. If he was that upset in his post-match stuff, then I would have loved to have seen what he actually said to the players. Maybe like a Neil Warnock type, rant. But yeah, the writing was on the wall, I think, in regards to the way he sort of, like you've already mentioned it, sort of threw his players under the bus. I was saying, look, I told them to do this, but they did this. For me, it's only going to end one way, and I think that was probably part of the reason why Wolves got rid of him. And I would have been intrigued if we drew 1-1 to see if he would have kept his job as well. I'm sure he probably still would be in a job if we gained a point on Saturday.
I think so as well.
Oh, I do as well, 100%. Yeah, he would have.
Which is just
the nature of it,
crazy.
wasn't it?
It's crazy that a 1-1 draw against Ipswich at home would mean you could continue to play job. The statement that came out 3 days before, which I've seen less waffle on an American breakfast, to say that he is backing the manager and there's going to be funds available, to then completely change his mind 3 days later. I put a tweet out saying any Premier League club executive who can change their mind like that and make the decision is not worth taking seriously. There's no big thinking with this. It's just pure reaction, and it's bollocks.
But we are run like that though, Matt. We run so mediocre from top to bottom of this football club. That's why we are where we are.
I don't know how they've made so much money, because I've not seen anything in the last 3 years to suggest that they're competent individuals running a football club.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think they, you bang on, like any sort of successful business, the structure and there's clear paths to what they're doing and rationale and understanding. That article that came out in the Express and Star, I want to say it was Wednesday. I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it might have been Wednesday. You're reading it and you're like, I read it and I thought, I've put it in aggregate, this is the biggest load of waffle I've ever read in my life. It was Chat GPT. It was just so said a lot of words out saying anything. And you bang on, like it's just reactionary. And dare I say it, it's ran almost like, it's almost like a dictatorship in a way of like, yeah, you know what? I've woke up the wrong side of the bed today. I'm a bit pissed off. Yeah, sack all these people over there. It's their problem. And and a few months ago it was the set pieces coach problem. And again, that was probably more of an O'Neill thing than a Fosun thing. But right, it's his problem. Now it's Dee's problem. Actually, look, Insular. The problem is with you. The problem is Fosun's problem. It's not. It's not. It is everyone's couple, but they're the biggest problem with this shit show that's going on at the minute.
Any comms that come out of Wolves, I'm pretty sure, and Dave, you might be able to confirm this, the media team or the comms team or Max will have visibility on that. And obviously Max will be able to see what Jeff's written, if Jeff has written it. And I would imagine he would have advised against publishing that. Not advised against speaking out, but publishing that. And I'd imagine... I think Max potentially would have, and he may have been like, you know what, you do what you want to do. But the fact that Jeff has published it, for me, he's just taking a piss out of every single one of us. That is just a statement to say, I could not give a fuck about you. Like,
it's such a strange concept, though. Like,
he's rubbing it in our faces.
Yeah, but why is he doing what is it, every 3 to 6 months, a quarterly or...
He don't even do it quarterly.
No, he just does it when he wants to.
He just does it when he thinks, fuck it, I'm going to wind him up today.
On the Express, and that's no dig, because the Express and Star, it's a massive coup for them, but why are you doing a column on the Express and Star? Like, if you've got anything worth saying that's worthwhile to the fans, it would go through the club. Yeah. It's such and I read it, I was like... And I certain people, and you'll know who it is, saying, "Oh yeah, I thought it was." I said, "What insight did you gain from it?" I said, "It's just waffle. It was a load of rubbish." So it just made no sense to release that at all.
But that's part of it. I think Matt, like what you say about Max. Obviously, you and Dave know Max better than I do, but
I don't really know him. Dave does more so than me, but
my money would be on the fact that no one knew that was coming.
Yeah,
that would be where my money would be, because they could always communicate.
That's true. That's a
relationship with the paper, wouldn't it? You'd have a decent relationship to say, listen, you cannot publish that. That needs to be kind of.
But if Jeff says it's going out, it's going out. He's the chairman.
I don't know. I obviously I don't know anything, but I get the impression that he probably thinks he holds more weight than he does. And let's be honest, he's not there, is he? So if he's not there physically, it seems to be the case from what Johnny Phillips has written this morning that he's not really there anymore. Matt Hobbs is obviously running the football operations day to day, and you've got other guys running other departments. I would imagine he's a very distinct character there. So you'll know yourselves through work. If your gaffer's away with the fairies, he's never there. You just end up running the show yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
So
Matt Hobbs is obviously integral to why the football club is running from a football point of view. But then they go and hire a manager without
Well,
Matt Hobbs' say so, which is allegedly what's happened. So it's a fucking mess. And I, as much as they've done good for the club, I think that fans' frustrations personally should be levelled at Fosun and Jeff Shea, and they should make themselves heard. They really should, because this is the first time really where I felt like, you know what, these are just taking the piss out of us as fans. They're exploiting the loyalty. I'll not put another penny into that club whilst they're still there, because I'm not having the piss taken out of me. It's not fair. It's not fair on people.
No, and I was going to say, sorry, that Jeff Shea article as well, you can tell that's coming from a place of someone who's just, he's not a football man. Because literally for me, that was just poking a fucking angry bear. Like, in terms of the fans are angry anyway, and then you come out with waffle like that, you're just going to prod and make them even more angry. I think that, again, publishing it in the Express and Star, I would say probably Max hasn't had sight of that, or the media team at Wolves, I would imagine. But then at the Express and Star, it's a great coup for them, like you said, Dave, but that's not going through Judah or Liam Keane. That's probably just going to the straight to the top and going, you're publishing this. I can't imagine Liam Keane's a Wolves fan, right? I think, and Judah's been close to the club for a long time. They saw something like that. I think they go. I'd like to think they go. Maybe they're looking at it from a clicks point of view, thinking, "Oh, this will get."
That's how they'll look at it. They'll look at it.
Yeah, but I'm like, they're looking at that from that point of view. But going on to what Matt said as well there, when he mentioned very briefly about Matt Hobbs, this appointment, by all it seems, has gone straight back to Mendes, and it's like, you know what, we're going back to the Mendes way of doing things. We're going to hire Mendes people. We're going to listen to him from transfer perspective. Like, this, to me, this appointment feels a massive two things up to Matt Hobbs in a way of, you know what, we're doing it our way now. You've had your chance. You've got it massively wrong. You were the one who wanted to give him the bigger contract in the summer. And when it comes to recruitment, we've stopped looking at Mendes players on the whole. We've started looking to the market itself. That hasn't worked. And I think, again, them looking at it from a Fosun perspective, they're just going, you know what, we're taking control of this now. And they're going to bring in our guys. We trust Mendes. And it's going to be the Mendes show now.
It's going to run deeper as well, isn't it, Jord, than that? Because with the January recruitment coming up, assuming it's going to be Vitor Ferreira coming in, the likes of Matt Hobbs and Ben Wrigglesworth, who manages the scouting side of things, they're going to have to take a back seat now, because naturally, we know what Jordan Mendes is like. Once he's got one client in the door, it's going to be, right, we'll have two loans and a permanent coming in January, probably from Portugal or probably from his stable of players that will probably no doubt improve us. They probably will, because we need numbers in certain areas, don't we? But the problem will be, in the long term, that I know that behind the scenes at the club, particularly with the scouting arrangement there, it does have a knock-on, because they get through a shitload of work in terms of scouting players, and none of it ever came to any fruition. Whereas the last 18 months, 2 years, it started with Joe Gomez, really, that kind of pattern from that January 23 window, the recruitment of the club has been much more insular, and it's been much more procedural, and it's gone through Matt Hobbs. And I'm seeing a lot of people slagging him off on social media, whereas I think you've got to put it into context of a lot of the big decisions haven't come from him. I don't know the bloke. Obviously, Dave's much closer to him than I am from the tournament that we were at. He was worryingly close to him. But obviously, like within the club, a lot of the bad decisions that have been made, some of them have been down to him. But fundamentally, the structural issues that are coming, and if you take the ticket pricing and things like that into consideration, that naturally accelerates the negative feeling towards the club. But when it comes to recruitment, I'll stand by the fact that I'll die on this hill. Our recruitment in the summer was good. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. It was one of the better windows, I think, personally.
I think ever since he's come in, so people were blaming him for the whole Bruno Lage saga. He wasn't even sporting director then.
No.
And the club have always maintained a close relationship with Jorge Mendes. They had never cut ties completely with him. Bastien Moipiu was a Jorge Mendes client. You know, the club has still got a lot of Jorge Mendes clients, and probably, I was told, the relationship between Mendes and the club is probably as close as ever now. Anyway, I think obviously as a super agent, he will want to sell as many players or do as many deals as he can with Wolves to and from the club. But ultimately, I think he's also got to appreciate the large appointment or the large tenure didn't go to plan, certain signings didn't go to plan. And as an agent, he will appreciate that and think, all right, I understand why you want to take a step back for now. But ultimately, this decision to move back to him and go towards Vitor Pereira is definitely a decision from Fosun. It's not going to freeze Matt Hobbs out completely of any responsibility because he's still going to have to broker deals. He's still going to have to do his due diligence on certain signings. But the weight of his opinion in regards to players is probably now going to be a lot less than what it was maybe 6 to 12 months ago.
But yeah, this is what I'm saying. That's what I was trying to get to. At best, it dilutes his role now and the scouting team's role at Wolves. At best, you could argue it makes it redundant in a way of. I know there'll still be like say due diligence and all that sort of stuff, but if you're given all this freedom and control that you come into this role with, and that's actually now it's gone to be restricted, and it's like actually we're still probably going to listen to this guy over here more so than you right now because what you've done hasn't worked. That's going to cause internal struggle and pain.
What we'll probably see, Jord, off the back of that, and we've seen it before, as soon as Mendes gets involved, we just end up signing twice as many players because half the players we sign are players that have been put forward by the scouting team and recruitment team to pull into the under-23s or to pull into through the youth teams. And you see us announcing these kind of players. You saw it before. We signed that many kind of bang average, middle level, kind of early 20s players that never got into our team. Pedro Gonçalves being one of them.
Well, yeah, Joe Hodge was another one, wasn't it? Joe Hodge was another one we picked up.
Yeah, and just to kind of almost define their existence, which is wrong because obviously the scouting team will have a lot of players who are senior players who probably can come in and improve the starting 11, but they won't get that opportunity in January because the other side of it is Vitor Pereira, if he's coming in, he will have a say in that as well.
In terms of the window, though, I think it's a bad window in terms of what we need now. It could be in 2 or 3 years' time that we start to see reap what we sow with Forbes, if he stays, Rodrigo Gomez, Andre. But for what we need now, Sam Johnson can, we all know what we think of that. But that's what I mean. I think for what we need now, selling 2 of our most effective players or most important players and replacing them with players who just aren't up to it at the minute. That's why I think it's a poor window. But I do feel sorry for Hobbs a little bit though because he's obviously led by Jeff, and I know we know that other people in the business know it can be really difficult dealing with him, and we have haven't got a pot to piss in or plead not to have a pot to piss in, and Hobbs has to do the best with that.
Yeah, he doesn't pick the budgets or so on. Like it's funny that the Armando Broja sort of deal it's come back up. It's not really relevant now to why Gary O'Neill has been so poor. But
why would you sign him?
That was a big part of last window where they had the deal set up and ready, and for whatever reason, whether it's Jeff's decision, whether it's someone even higher up than him, they didn't want to, spend.
Well, that's bollocks stuff because we've signed an alternative player to Armando Broja in the summer who's turned out to be twice the player. Mm-hmm. So, Strand Larson is a much better centre forward than Armando Broja is. I think that's been at least he can stay fit at least for a period for the 50-55 minutes he can actually stay on the pitch. But that when I read that this morning, that article is such a bizarre. I can only assume that's come from a specific camp to kind of start.
Gary O'Neill, obviously.
The whole thing towards the end about how he would be very open to looking elsewhere as well in the summer if any job offers came in, he'd take it seriously.
I'd heard that through someone fairly reputable that he'd spoken to West Ham, but it hadn't gone any further.
Would surprise me.
Yeah.
In the I don't know if it's in the summer or towards the end of last season, but yeah, it's a weird time off. Personally, still don't think we'll stop up. But then I'm probably going to have to spend 100 million in January with the new gaffer coming in, and then what's the excuse after that? We've got no money. We had to spend big, and then you fucked again for 4 windows, and then you might stay up. It's just not the way to run a business. But let's talk about the new gaffer. Obviously wasn't first choice, because if that was the case, when I started sounding out possible candidates, I would have just gone and got him for £1 million compensation. I think that's fair, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This isn't someone who deemed as first choice. Fans clamouring for Graham Potter, David Moyes, absolutely no chance. Wolves aren't fishing in those markets. Who was the name yesterday? John Eustace.
Yeah, John Eustace.
Fucking hell! Is that how bad? Is that how bad things are? I'm not saying he's.
I put a post out. I think Eustace and Corberán, they're not awful managers, but they're underwhelming, very underwhelming. And it's not the the sort of pond that Wolves fans would be expected to be fishing in. You know, there's names that more reputable and probably achieve more in the game that you'd want to.
Would these kind of prima donna players react well to John
I
Eustace?
don't think
That's
so.
what I mean.
I think it'd be car crash.
Mm.
Car crash. And I saw on Twitter yesterday, though, as well, coming back to Potter and Moyes not being in the realms of our possibility. Obviously, we know they've spoke to them and they turned them down pretty early on when they were sounding out managers. But then I saw something on Twitter yesterday that Wolves, actually, the owners, we're the 10th richest club in the world.
Yeah, Fosun.
We're worth, the Fosun are worth like $6 billion. So this is the frustration from fans. They sort of clamour and claim they haven't got a pot to piss in, or we're not putting money in. You have got money. There's FFP and then there's putting financial restriction and restraint on yourselves. The Premier League's hard enough as it is, and you end up doing it putting all the fucking difficulty sliders up to max.
I think you've only got to look at the amount of Chinese owners in British football 5 years ago compared to now, and I think we are one of
not many in
few.
Europe at all. I don't think now.
I think we're the only one in the top two.
But they've been to and a lot of people have said this, and at the time people were like, "That's bollocks." Chinese government and said foreign investment, you need to scale back. There was a massive push to get the World Cup in China, and they didn't get it, and now they've scaled back. But if you want to buy a business that's profitable, then a football club isn't for you. Not many football clubs turn a profit. I think over the last 3 or 4 years, only 4 have. Brentford, Brighton and Man United are the 3 that I remember. But Man United commercially are the biggest club in the world.
Yeah.
Brentford and Brighton sell well, buy well, because they're run by competent individuals. Yeah. We are absolutely miles off a Brighton and a Brentford, and we really shouldn't be. Yeah. We really shouldn't be. So Fosun are going to have to start investing. Personally, I just wish they'd sell the club and get tomorrow. And they have had offers from what we understand, and Dave might be able to back this up here, but they're genuinely not interested in selling the club.
No, they've batted back a number of offers. I don't know what value those offers are, so they might be quite underwhelming offers, but they have no interest in even negotiating a sale. So, to be fair, to going back to your point, Jordan, in terms of the value, Fosun are worth that much, but a lot of that will probably be assets. I don't think that'd be like physical.
Yeah, no, there won't be cash. Yeah. It's not liquid cash, no. But at the same time, on that list, other clubs.
We don't need $6 billion in a window, do we?
Yeah,
you need like 60, 70 million a year.
Yeah, you need to, and that's just not what we've sort of. That's on top of what the players that you sell, and they've just not been doing that. I think we can all agree. Ever since really, they completely cocked it up. And COVID hasn't helped. They completely cocked it up the Europa League season, because that was your chance there. Jump on it, bring in some quality.
And you can attract players then because you're playing in Europe.
Some reputable players, don't get me wrong, but all of them turned out to be like Vallejo, Gash, Neto and Jord at the time weren't ready. Jord obviously hasn't turned out to be anything. Catrone, just a waste of time. And unfortunately Mendes had a lot of power then, but in terms of our footballing brains at the club, we didn't have a lot then either. I think Sellers was in charge by then, I think.
But that's when you're relying on Mendes. When if you get back into bed with Mendes, for as many Neves and Jotas and Bollies that you get, you are going to end up with a Fabio Silva along the lines. And I feel like that's just something we're going to have to take on the chin. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
That's where the conflict of interest comes in, though, isn't it? Because if Fosun have got shares in Gestifu, and obviously George Mendes is a financial beneficiary of any of those transfers, then the only party that come out badly of any of those transfers are probably Fabio to a degree, because obviously it stalled his career, probably was playing for Wolves. But the club suffer as a result, because we've got this stockpile of bang average shitty players to get rid of, which obviously we've struggled to get rid of them as well. So that's part of that conflict of interest. That's a big part of the problem, I think.
Flavio Cristobal, Nuno's nephew, wasn't it?
Nuno's godson.
Yeah. Vitor Ferreira, lads, currently in Saudi Arabia. Previous clubs, Porto, where he won 2 league titles, I believe. Olympiacos, Fenerbahce, 1860 Munich, where he stumped the gaff out. Shanghai, Fenerbahce again, Corinthians, Flamingo. Now he's at Al Shabab, which I believe roughly translates to the lads.
I thought you would have said
the lads or the youth, something like that. A little fun fact for you. He can't have been top of the list, but it is very clearly Dave, a Mendes client, and they've gone back to old and they've bypassed Hobbs.
Yeah,
that's not us speculating. That's what's been reported.
Yeah, no, I think there is a little bit of common sense to it in regards to defensively he can set his teams up very well, and I think that's been the main issue for Wolves this season. Defensively, we've been awful, and he's got an okay defensive record. His points per game total across his whole career. Look, he has managed at some top clubs. You'd expect him to win the most games with Porto and Olympiacos, so maybe that's a bit skewed, but it's an okay points per game record. To be fair, I've read a little bit, especially during his time in Porto. He had a great team. He had some brilliant
Jackson
players.
Martinez,
Jackson Martinez,
James
Rodriguez,
Danilo Pereira,
But
Alexandro.
Benfica were firm favourites to win the title those seasons that he was there, because they'd spent a lot of money and he really didn't. And he won the league title both seasons. But the fans, for whatever reason, never really took to him. But the one thing I'm intrigued by, I'm going to try and find a little bit more about this, is the whole Everton thing. Because I think it was 3 separate occasions he was close to getting the Everton job. I read that Wolves had him under consideration a couple of times before as well, but I don't think his name's ever really come out. But the Everton
place in Zenga was one of them, I think.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. But the Everton thing really intrigues me because, one, I don't get why Everton fans were so dead against him, and obviously ended up bringing Lampard in. But 2, the whole thing when he jumped on Sky Sports News is just embarrassing, really. So
what did he do?
Say again, sorry.
Who jumped on Sky Sports News?
He did. When Everton fans turned against him, Vitor Pereira went on Sky Sports News basically to sell himself to Everton fans.
Really? I didn't know that.
It was about 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. So when they brought Lampard in, they graffitied, I don't know if it's nearby or a Goodison, Pereira out, Lampard in, and he went on Sky Sports News basically to back himself up.
Fuck me,
say,
it must be bad if they're picking Lampard.
Yeah, well, no. So, but no, like I've said, it looks like he takes no shit. He's a bit of a nutcase. So it's either going to go very, very badly or end in flames. So the concerning thing is, one, he has got a relegation on his CV in the second division of Germany, 1860 Munich, when he was appointed on the 18th of December. So, I mean, if we leave it much later, it's going to be like deja vu.
That's Wednesday, isn't it? So if he gets a job Wednesday, then you know.
Well, on an extension of that, Dave, he took the job at Flamengo kind of December, January, and he'd gone by the middle of April. So before the full Brazilian season had even started. So
was it Corinthians or the Flamengo thing when he absolutely shafted him? Was it Corinthians?
It was Corinthians, I think. Yeah, because then he left.
He left because his mother was ill, so he went back to Portugal, and then he took the Flamengo job straight.
The Flamengo job the following season, yeah.
So
bodes well, doesn't it?
I don't think he'll be here very long, but ultimately, he's got one job, and it's to keep us in the Premier League. And
it's an interesting one though, because like I keep reading about his desperation to manage in the Premier League, and it's like that's great.
He was like that, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, read about him like willing to pay his own release clause, and it's like
Jeff Shea. That's why they fucking bought him in.
I think that was lost in. I think because that was I think that was lost in translation. I
hope so.
Yeah,
I think so. Maybe Jeff Shea wrote it.
Yeah. I think that's part of the you did.
That's part of the problem, though. That you shouldn't be going to pluck it. My personal opinion, I'll get behind him 100%. He's going to be better than Gary O'Neill 100%. But the problem is going to be in the fact that you've got a bloke who's absolutely desperate to come to Wolves, who have got 9 points after 16 games, and they're probably going to get relegated. So I do question his motive behind that. Really.
I think it's putting himself in the shop window back into Europe, isn't it? If he manages to I think if we stay up or we go down, I don't think he's in it for the start of the next season anyway. So if he comes here and does a good job, I think if he comes here and does a good job, I think he's not exactly showed loyalty across his career, right? I think he'll just go to the next one. I think he does a good job here, and then he'll be hoping to get sort of, dare I say it, like a West Ham job or a Spurs. Like, it's just somewhat, I think he'll end up with whatever's, he'll look at it and go, yeah, I'm going to go there now.
His CV looks like my job history on my Football Manager Pentagon Challenge. He's been absolutely everywhere in every single continent. He just needs to go to Supersport in South Africa next season, and he'll top the lot.
What sort of contract are they going to give him? Surely 2 years. He's not going to come for 6 months, is he? And he can't give him a year contract.
2 year, but he's
2.5
taking
years.
a pay cut apparently as well, which you would expect because in Saudi.
Look, they gave Gary O'Neill 4 years 6 months ago, so I'm sure they'll give him a fucking 5-year contract.
Do you reckon there's a break clause in the summer if he takes us down?
So.
Yeah.
Or it'll be, there must be something, because it's really weird for me that a manager would have, in Saudi, would have €1 million, £1 million release clause. Like, that's might be what it is. He might say, I'll take a pay cut and whatever. I'll sign to 3 years. Because £1 million for any sort of half decent football team, if someone really wants him, they'll pay it, won't they? So I think that might be the way he does it, just as a stupidly low release clause. So anyone that wants to come and get him,
he did say, I was reading an interview with him because he was at Al Ahly like 10 years ago, I think, or kind of 2015, 2016 possibly. And he said he made his money then. He doesn't need to do anything for the money. I think when he went to Flamengo, possibly, it's not about the money. It's about wanting to, be a high profile manager. Which he's had plenty of opportunities to do that in the past. Which is if we've approached him previously and Everton approached him, and I know that didn't end well, but you'd have thought there would have been. His career is just odd to me. Like when he went to 1860 Munich, it's just a really odd set of odd moves, I think.
I'm sure Al Shabab are happy about hearing that he's only there for the money.
Daniel Benson, he buzzing, wasn't
Pedant return. But this is the thing. We're now in a really precarious position. I don't think we're going to have time for questions, but just having a look through, we seem to have covered them all. We're in a precarious position where you've got a gaffer in who you might not be sure about, who you're only going to sign on a short-term contract, but he's going to give him 100 million to spend in January, or you'd hope. Because if it's 20, 25 million, then we are fucked. It's not joined. There's no joined up thinking, is there?
No, it's all short-termism. But the thing is, the long-term strategy of Fosun, after Nuno went, we've never been long-term. Everything's been sort of just looking right in front of you, what's right in front of your face there and then. A lot of it's reactionary, and this is what I'm saying.
Firefighting. It's always just firefighting.
And I keep saying, I said it last week. They want us to be like Brighton. We couldn't be any further fucking from Brighton if we tried.
Yeah,
like we couldn't. They've got 3 managers already lined up for the next one. They've got players. It's a conveyor belt. They change managers, and they get better. It seems they sell players and seem to get better ones in. It's mental.
They've got managers and players who are retainable. Whereas we go and speak to Moyes and Potter knowing full well that they ain't going to want to take the job.
And that's part of the problem, isn't it? Brighton spend money to make money. They'll spend 20 million quid on someone. If you look at Carlos Baleba, look at Kadioglu, those kind of players, they'll spend 15, 20 million to sell them for 60, 70. Whereas we want to sign them for 2 or 3 and sell them for the same. And because we got lucky with the Neto deal and the Kilman deal, that'll just reinforce it. I think they can do that every year, which just won't happen.
No, it remains to be seen what does happen. It looks like he's going to get the job. Hopefully wrapped up in the next,
I'm looking forward to Sunday though now. If he's in the dugout, I'm looking forward to it. But in terms of systems, it'll be intriguing as well because Porto, which was probably about 10 years ago, he played a 4-3-3, but he more recently has played 3 at the back, so would suit us quite well, I think. So let's see.
Wonder if he's got any decent one centre back systems that he can operate.
Defenderless. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Catenaccio in
inverted Christmas tree?
Yeah. I'm going to have to jump off anyway, lad. So I think it's probably time to wrap up the podcast there. Hopefully, he's in the dugout for Sunday, and we get it's a winnable game. They'll appeal Cunha's ban, and he'll.
Have you seen how bad Leicester have been? I know they've got the win under Van Nistelrooy, but in terms of
not 70-odd shots,
3 games.
And he's out as well, isn't he now as well? Hermansen's out, and they're all saying if he's out, that's the goalie.
Jones,
it's Danny Ward was in goal, and they're like, if Danny Ward's in goal, he just wouldn't.
Jones,
fucking Australia.
Yeah, basically, And I watched the game they played against. Who did they beat 3-1 in Rude's first game?
West Ham.
And West Ham pummeled them.
West Ham battered them, yeah.
Battered them. It's a very winnable game, but I thought Saturday was an extremely winnable game as well, so I'm not holding my breath.
You just know Wout Fast is going to score an header from a corner.
He's been dropped, hasn't he, though? He's come in and got rid of him, and in this draw, he's started playing Connor Cody.
He doesn't need to be on the pitch.
It's like when Arsenal fans celebrate and they get a corner. I've got my fucking head in my hands every time we concede one. It's a good job we're not playing Arsenal for a little while because.
My God!
It could be an absolute.
Not too far off, mate. January.
Well, hopefully the big man comes in and shows us up. Dave, where can people find you? Should they wish to follow you, mate?
At Dave as a party on all the socials.
Concept Scouting, Joe Parker. How about yourself?
At Concept Scouting, ironically, that's where you'll find me.
Mr. Jordan Russell.
Jordan7 on Twitter and Instagram.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, hopefully next week. Podcasts will be coming thick and fast as well because there's loads of games over Christmas. We'll be bringing you coverage of all of those. But yeah, hoping to see some of you at Leicester on Sunday for my third or fourth game of the season. It should be a laugh if anything else. But yeah, if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review if you're on YouTube. Well, thanks for coming. If you want to buy this in the description down below. let's not talk about him anyway. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, drop us a like and subscribe if you know. Until next time, hopefully we can bring you some sort of positive news. But yeah, I'm not so sure. But yeah, until next time, have a fantastic week and up the Wolves.